Right. So deployment, like I said, it's more like a phase where we've assumed that our project is ready, right? So we finished building the application, we've tested it, and we are ready to to put it out there for public use, right, or for our co-engineers, right, to actually work with. Because at the moment, this application lives and breathes in our various machines. So I can't actually access it, right? I can actually access it, and you can actually access what I've been doing since, and neither can actually access what you've been doing since. So the only way that we could actually access our project is only you could send me what your source code. And in order for me to actually access your project is that I am also a developer, and I understand how to do what to start up your environment in order to do what to start using your application, which shouldn't be so because there are other developers, right, that may not actually be Python developers, but they actually want to do a use of your application. So as such, there is need for what for deployment. So but we are going to see how we can do how we can deploy a fast API application, the ones we've been building since. So we are gonna do what? See how we're gonna deploy it on render. All right. So for this particular class, we are gonna deploy on render, and the steps or the process is likely going to be the same for any other hosting application platform, right? Well, for any other hosting platform. Okay, but for this particular class, we are going to make it of render for our deployment. So that's what we'll be using. That's what we'll be using. So quickly, I will just navigate to our projects folder, and then I will explain to us the things we need to put in place before we actually finally push to this platform for hosting. Okay, so let's go to our project. So I will use the recent one, the one that has a well-structured folder, right? So I will assume that to be our finished work, and we need it to actually to go live. Okay, we need it to actually go live. So we're gonna see how we're gonna push that online, okay, and then see how we can access this link from our various location, right? So now it doesn't have to live on my device alone, okay? You can actually access it from your own end. All right, so I will head over to our folder, because this is our folder and CodeCamp intermediate. So this is the folder that we took time to do what to structure properly. All right, and we have some tests, and we have some schemas there. All right, I think those are the only things we have there. All right, so at the moment, that is what we are going to deploy. All right, for sample, right? So this is more like sampling, right? Seeing how we can actually deploy. Then once we start building our mini project, then we can do a push out a full working application, right? So this one here is just going to be like a guide, right? To actually let us know the things that we need to put in place before we do what? Before we actually deploy, all right? Before we actually deploy, right? So we're gonna do what? Open it up on VS Code, all right? And before that, we are going to navigate to project one. Remember, we are still going to make use of this virtual environment here. Okay, so we have to navigate here and then activate this virtual environment, and then we navigate back to project two, and then open it up in uh in uh in our VS Code rather. Okay, so I'll copy this URL, go to command prompt, and then just change directory, and then activate the environment venv backslash script backslash activate, and then we just change directory back to project two. All right, and within our project two we have our app there. Okay, so I'll go ahead and open up project two in VS Code. So while that is coming up, so there are a few things that we need to that we need to put in place. So today we will be running um, our development server because the project is working. Is exactly where we left off in our previous class. So today we're gonna push this online, so someone else can actually access this application and use it whenever they see need to, right? So we have a root path, a root route there. We have other route that lives within our API folder, like the item route, the user route, and I think that's all. That's all the routes we have for this application, right? So first thing first is that we need what we call a requirements.txt file, right? We need what we call a requirements, but it's a very important file. Okay, now the requirement.txt file is basically a file that holds all the dependency that your project is working on, or that your project is actually using. Right. So whatever dependency that this project is using has to be in that file. Now, um, render needs that file in particular so that it can actually run the installation of those dependency so that it can do what simply deploy your application for you with those dependency. Okay, so render needs that file. And how do you get all your dependencies? If you actually go to your command prompt or wherever you can, either in your command prompt or in your VS Code, but I prefer working with my command prompt on this. Okay, so if you go to your command prompt and you kind of and you type the command pip freeze, now pip freeze will will list out all the dependencies that this project has, right? But it basically all the dependency that lives in this virtual environment, right? Because at times we install a particular dependency, right? And that dependency go ahead to install as other dependencies that it requires to do what to function properly, right? So, but at the moment, these are all the dependencies that we have in this virtual environment. So we have our fast API, of course, it should be there, and we have I think JWT. We worked with JWT once, okay, I think in doing security. So you can say that dependency is still there, even though at the moment we don't have it in this project, right? But there is no problem. There is no problem. And we have our PyTest, which we use in testing and the rest of those things, right? So basically that is, and we have our SQL alchemy as well, and so on, right? So those are all the dependencies we have. So you can actually do fish like this, right? And then you copy all these things like this. You highlight everything, and then you copy it, and then you create a file not inside your app folder, but outside your app folder, right? All right, outside your app folder, and then you create a file called requirements.txt, and then you put these dependencies there, right? You can do that, but and you can also do this by simply typing the command pip freeze, okay, and then with a sign with a greater than sign, okay, and then you type requirements with s.txt, right? So now this command here simply means pip freeze all the requirements into a file called what requirement.txt. Now, if that file is not there, then it will simply create that file and put in those requirements there, right? So that way you don't have to come and copy and go and paste there, okay? So that way you don't have to do that at all. And then when you click on enter, then that will do what that would simply create that file for you. So if you go back to our project now, we now have a requirement.txt file, right? And you could say that it holds all the requirements that lives in that virtual environment, all of them. Now you want to keep doing this if in the future, right? We if in the future we improve on this project, right? And then during that development, we added a new dependency. Then in that case, we need to do what we need to update this requirement.txt file, right? Before pushing that changes back to us to render, right? So just keep that in mind that for each time you update your dependency, you need to also do what update this requirement.txt file. That is actually uh, important to do what to take note of, right? Now, after having that after having that in place, now what you could do again, what is also required again is is you also need a git ignore file, because you are gonna actually push this file. You are actually going to push um this code to what, to GitHub, and basically there's some files that we don't actually want to push, right? If there is, it's not actually compulsory, but then there are some files that you may choose not to push to GitHub. But if you have such file, then you can do what, you can insert git ignore file here, right? And basically what that file does is that once you list those files that you don't want to push to Git, right? Then Git will automatically ignore those files and will not push them to your GitHub repository, right? But for now, I do not have any file that I do not wish to push, right? So for now, I will leave it as it is. But if you have yours, then you can actually initialize that. So you simply just create the git enough file in the same directory where you have your requirement.txt file, right? So just to be clear, let's go back to my project one, and you could see that requirement.txt is outside the app folder, right? So this is what I want to clarify. The requirement.txt is outside what, the app folder, right? The app folder is where we have our actual source code. Requirement.txt file is where we have our dependencies, right? Our list of dependencies. So for now, with this basic project, that is all we have to put in place, right? So when we get to when we build a mini project, and then we come to use like secret keys, where we need to hide those secret keys, then we will do what, we will hide them, right? When we get there, right? When we get there. For now, we don't have any secret key to hide, so we leave it there as it is. We leave it there as it is. So after having this in place, because this is kind of the important file, the most important file that you need, requirement.txt, very important. You need to put it there. So after having that in place, what you want to do again is to make sure that you have a GitHub repository, right? Or a GitHub account rather. Okay, so because you need to push your code to your GitHub repository, right? You need to push your code to your GitHub repository. So so I'll assume that you have as well, that you have a GitHub repository, right? So I'll just use one demo repository of mine for this purpose, right? So what you want to do is you want to basically push your code to GitHub, to your GitHub repo, which I'm sure that you are already familiar with that process, because all your tasks, you've been submitting it in your GitHub repository account. So I'm not it wouldn't be uh I wouldn't be surprised if you say that you're already familiar with that process. So I'll go ahead and just push this file as it is to GitHub repository. So I'll do that quickly. So basically, I'll just close this. I think I have one report here. And let's go. Let's hope. Let's go. Let's see. So basically, I want to create a new repository. All right. So I'll call this fast API repository, and basically that is all. I won't give any description. It's optional, and I'll leave it public as it is. And then I'll just create this repository, and then I'll just push our code down to this repository here that I just created. So what I want to do now is to initialize a Git repository here. So I'll just clear my screen for now, and then go ahead and say Git init, right? And it initialize a GitHub repository there. And the next thing I want to do is to add git add, and then git commit -m, probably first commit, the message. And the next thing is to add the remote repository. So let's copy this and just paste it there. Next thing is to be git push, right? Dash u origin master. Right, so that will get our code down to what to that repository. So if I refresh this now, we should now have our code available here. All right, so you can see our code is now available there, right? Our code is now available here. So if I open this up, then we should see our files, right? So we have our main files, our API, and every other thing there as expected, right? As it should be. Now, the next thing you want to do is for you to go ahead and create an account on Render, right? So because I said in our previous class that we'll be using Render for deployment. So that's where we'll be hosting this application on Render. Now Render actually offers free hosting services, and we want to utilize that medium of free hosting services, right? So we want to actually make use of that free hosting services. So that's where Render comes in, right? So they actually offer a free 3 months. So if you don't have an account with them, you can basically just sign up, right? So you can just sign up on Render. It's a very straightforward process. All, 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 all you have to do is to sign up, and then you verify your email, and you're good to go. So I myself, I have multiple accounts on Renders. So what I'll do is just log in one here. So this is one of the accounts for I have on Renders, and I've been doing some deployment on this account. Okay, so you can deploy as many projects as you want on Renders. So I have been deploying some project there. Right, so that is the application that we want, right? So now once you sign up on Render, and you should basically have a dashboard like this, right? The nothing maybe if it's a new account, right? Then nothing should actually show here, right? It should be as empty as, right? But that shouldn't be a problem, right? As far as you've signed up and you've verified your account, and you have the dashboard here, or probably I think you see something like this, or not, yeah, yes, a dashboard, okay, and but if you're not seeing a dashboard and you're seeing probably boxes of options, then basically you want to click on the box that says web service. But if you don't see those boxes, and then you want to come up to your um, top right corner, right, and then where you have the new option there, you want to click on new option, and you want to select web service, right? Web service, not static site, web service, please. So when you click on web service, then it will take you to um to a point where it will ask you if you want to deploy from a GitHub repo account. So that's why I passed that phase, right? So, but if your account is the first is a new account, then it will ask you if you intend to deploy from a GitHub repository. Then you want to go ahead and click on that GitHub repository. Then it will go ahead and ask you that if it should install Render on your GitHub repository. Then you want to go ahead and click yes for that installation to take place. Once that installation has finished and has concluded, then it will ask you if you want to select a single repository or select all repository. I will advise you select all repository, so you don't have to be going back to be selecting a repository for each time you want to deploy. Now, once you select on all repository, you should now see this page, right? You should see this page, and then you should see all the repository you have in your GitHub, all your repos, right, in your GitHub account. So basically, you want to click on your fast API repository, which in this case here, right, which in this case here, So I'll click on this and then click on connect, right? Now, once you click on that, then all you have to do is to fill up these fields here, right? So these fields at times is auto filled for you, like the name here, right? So this name here is randomly picked, or probably from your repository name, then it automatically fill it there for you. But then if you have a special name or a different name that you intend to specify, then you can go ahead and specify that name there, right? But for me, I'll leave Fast API as it is. So basically, the name there doesn't really mean anything. It just gives that product a name, right? So it'd be like it's just like you giving that particular deployment a unique name, right? A nickname. And then the language, of course, it's Python, right? So it's Python. This is the render will try its best, right, to automatically identify the programming language itself. But for any reason you push your code down here and it's selecting something else, let's say Go, please change it to Python 3, right? It should be Python 3. And then the branch, at the moment, I remember I pushed the master branch, right? So if you push the main branch, then select the main branch. At the moment, I have just master branch. So master branch, yes, it is. Then for location, for region, rather, so you could use this region there, or you could choose whichever region you want. So the region doesn't really matter. But this is the one I have been using. Don't worry, there's no African region there, right? So you want to actually pick anyone, right? But for previous deployment that I've been deploying, I've been actually been picking this particular region, right? So you can just go ahead and make use of that same region there, right? There is no problem. You can still make use of that region, right? And then yeah, this command here is also important. Now remember I said that we need what that we need requirement.txt file. Now you see, and this is the command that render will automatically execute. So it will look for what for requirement.txt file to do what to go ahead and install all the requirements there, like all dependencies in that file, right? So that's why I said that file is very important. It's one of the important files that needs to be there. Okay, so that is what Render will do automatically. Now this is where you now come in, right? So this is where you now specify what your start command. So this is where you specify your start command. So this command is basically the same command that we'll be using to run our server in development mode, right? But then it's this time around it's a little bit stylish. I'll call it that way, stylish, but it's almost the same thing. So now the thing is that Fast API does not make use of Joe Unicorn, so you wouldn't want to use Joe Unicorn there, right? So Fast API makes use of what of UVCon. So this should be UVCon. So your start command should be UVCon, okay? UVCon, and then followed by the the file the instance of your Fast API, which in this case is in our app folder, and then the .main file, right? Followed by followed by app itself, that instance of what of Fast API. So it's similar to our command that we've been running in development, except we need to specify the host as 0.0.0. So the host should be what 0.0.0.0, and then you need to specify port. In this case, I will just use port 9000, right? Port 9000. So please notice the spacing. The dash dash is joined with the host. The dash dash is joined with the port. And then there's a space before the 9000, there's a space before the 0.0.0, right? So that will be what your start command. And like I said, Render also gives free instance. So you want to click on the one that is free, right? So not this tab, the one that is free, because this free one will just give you the ability to what to deploy. It is not really nice for professional use, okay, but it will serve the purpose of this particular bootcamp, okay, for the purpose of this particular bootcamp. So that will do. So you click on that, and that is all. That's basically all you have to do, and then you click on deploy web service. So it will take a couple of minutes, few minutes, about 2 to 3 minutes for that to be up and running. So whether that is up and running, whether that is building, because it is actually building. So it's actually building. So while that is building, then you just give it a few minutes and we'll be back. So you could say that it's installing everything that is in our requirement.txt. I say it's downloading and it's what and it's installing them. Right. So give it a few minutes and it should be done. A few minutes and it should be done. Few minutes and it should be done. Right. So we have build successful, okay, deploying. So when you see we are live, then you know that we are live then. Right. So give it a second, few minutes, and we should be done. Few minutes.
Please, I'm sorry, please, while this one is still going, please, can you
All
just
right.
recap the variables again that you inputted? So let's just see
Okay.
from top to
All
bottom
right.
again while it's loading.
All right. So let's go back to the project, right? I should start from here, right?
No, no, the render from the render. I
Okay.
got all
Okay.
this one, how you pushed it.
All right. All
Yes,
right.
the render. So from render from the
Okay.
beginning, yes, thank you.
Okay. Let's go back to render. So whether that is running. Okay. So the thing is that I will once you've pushed your code to render here, okay. All right. Now once you've actually created an account on render and your code is on GitHub, now you want to do what you want to connect your render to your GitHub. All right. So that way you can simply be deploying directly from your GitHub without stress. But then before you get to that point where you can connect your render to your GitHub, you need to first of all at least deploy one project. So now when you come to your render dashboard like this, if it's a new account, nothing should be here. Okay. Then basically what you want to do is you want to click on new, right? New option there, and then you want to click on web service. That's you want to create a new web service. So when you click on web service, then it will take you to a point. I wish I could actually undo this so I can show you that point. It will take you to a point where it will ask you, do you want to deploy from a GitHub repository, right, or from an image? Yeah, from an image, I think, yes. So basically what you want to pick is a GitHub repository. Now once you click on that option, if your account has never been connected to your GitHub account before, that is if your render account have never communicated with your GitHub account before, then it will ask you if it should install render in your GitHub account for easy access. Then you want to go ahead and pick yes. Then you should go ahead and run that installation. Right now, once that installation has been completed, it will now ask you, do you want to view or do you want to have access to just one single repository? Now, a single repository means that during the time of deployment, you can only pick just one repository. Like you can't view all your repository, right? You can only pick one at a time, right? Now, I say that I will advise that you pick all repositories, right? So you don't have to be seeing that window each time you want to deploy, right? So that once you want to deploy, it takes you directly to all your repository, and then you can just simply scroll and do what and pick. So by default, the most recent um, repository will always come up, right? So the ones you just pushed will always tend to be at the top, right? So basically, what you do, you just pick that repository, right? You pick it and then you do what you click on connect. So connect is down here. No, render have actually changed their UI. I think personally I prefer the older UI. This one is not really stylish like the older one. This one looks I don't know, just looks somehow, right? But then so you just pick the repository that you intend to do what to deploy. That is your first API repository. So when you click on that, and then you do what you click on connect, right? You click on connect, then it takes you to where you do what you fill out some information about this particular deployment. So first of all, like I said, this name here, Brenda will do what will try to auto generate a deployment name, right? Like we've seen here, it has done one. So if this name is not convenient for you, you can just clean it up and do what give it whatever name that you see fits. You call it maybe let's say CodeCamp if you want. You can call it CodeCamp if you want. And then the language should be Python 3. If for any reason it's not Python 3, then you want to click on it and select Python 3. It should be Python 3, right? And then the branch that's the branch that is holding your repository, which in our case is master branch, right? It's master branch. So if you go to our branch, you have what you have folder, you have the let's see. If you go to the branch, you have these files here, app and what and requirement dot app folder and what and requirement dot txt, and those are the two files in that particular um, branch, right? Master branch, right? So now this particular command here is what is by default, right? So render will do what will run pip install dash r in pip install dash r requirement.txt .txt, right? So this is basically a command that says install every dependency in requirement.txt. So in that case, your requirement.txt must always be where outside your app folder, because if you move this file inside the app folder, then render will not see requirement.txt, and that will be a problem, right? Render will not see requirement.txt, and we do not want that, right? We do not want that. So that's why I'm saying that that your requirement.txt must be outside your app folder, but we don't want your project folder, right? Like we don't your project folder, not inside your app folder. So your app folder is basically the folder that houses what your entire application. Requirement.txt is as outside that folder, so that render can simply do what see that file, right? Now after that has been sorted out, then your start command. So this is the command that render will use in running your server, right? But this time around it's no longer a development server. A development server. That's because it's now running on render, and anybody can actually access their application, right? So, but then the command is quite similar to the ones we've been using in class, right? It's quite similar to the ones we've been using in class, and and we know that that fast API makes a lot of UVCon, not JUnicon. If this was a Django project, Django actually makes a lot of JUnicon, right? But fast API use what fast UVCon rather, sorry. So you want to put in what you want to put in UVCon here as the start command, right? Then UVCon takes in the instance of what of your fast API, right? Which in this case is in our app folder. Remember, Brenda is saying this repository, right? So you need to tell Brenda that the instance of our fast API is inside the app folder in the main file, right? So as such, you now do what? You now say the app folder, right? Dot the main file. Remember, the main file is inside the app folder, right? And then the instance now is inside this main file. Do you understand there? You understand?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
All right. So after that, you now specify the host, right? So, but this time around, and render says that host should be what should be 0.0.0.0, and your port dash port, and you could specify any port, but I usually do 9,000, right? And that is all you have to, and that is all you have to do to specify there, and you're good to go. And then you simply select free, and then you click on what deploy websites, and you're good to go. And you're good to go. Right. So let's go back and see if the ones that we deployed actually finished.
Sorry, please. What if we should have environmental variable? How do we now do it?
All right. If we've closed that place. All right. So if we have the environment variable, so I think I said it that when we build application that requires environment variable, that I'll show you how to do that. But let me just go ahead and just show you that. Okay. Right. So if you have developed environment variable, then basically what you want to do is you scroll down before you actually click on deploy. There's a section for what? For environment variable. So if you have a secret key, just type in the secret key, and then the value of your secret key. You type it down there. And then you add, if you want to add more ones, you can add environment variable, another one, and you do what? You add probably debug, or let's say an API key, or yeah, API key, and then you do what? You type in your API key, and then you can keep doing that like that and that. You do what till you do what till you finish, till you add all your environment variable, right? But for this particular project, we will not have any environment variable. But that is how you simply add environment variable. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, got it. So render is very easy and straightforward to actually play with. All right. So it's very easy and it's easy and straightforward. That's the beauty of that. That's one thing I prefer about render compared to other, the simplicity. All right, simplicity. Right. So the one we actually deployed has finished deploying about 9 minutes ago. So let's go ahead and let's see. So the thing is that once it deploys, right, it gives you a link. Remember, I told you that what the render will also give you its own domain that the application is running on. So this is the domain, right? That is now your new link, all right? So not the HTTP colon slash slash one two is it 127.0.0 port 8000, right? So that is no longer valid here again, right? Now we have an actual domain name, but this one is from render, right? So it still carries render's name there, but then it serves as what as your domain name, and you can change it if you want to, right? You can change it if you have a custom domain name. So if you copy this now, right, you can now open it in a new tab, and you should now have your API, right? So I think is that you could see that we have our API up and running. So we can also navigate to our documentation. I think it was group one, I believe. Group one, group one slash documentation. Documentation. All right. I believe that our API is up and running. So you can just simply copy this link and do what and send it to your front end engineers, and they can do what they can start working with your API. All right, they can start working with your API. That was easy and straightforward, right? Question. Okay, let me just share you the link so maybe you could just use it. It's you guys' project now. So I'll drop the link on the call. The chat session, you can get the link. So you can also open the link from your ends, and you could do what you can still have this. You can still have that. Question.
No question.
Wait,
No question.
no question.
I went through
All
the
right. So
class. If
I
you are through
am
the class, I have other questions.
sorry.
I have other questions, which is
Yeah,
after the
we are.
class. Yes. So I should know.
Okay, which after the class.
No,
All
that
right.
is
So
if
I
you are
think
through with
we
the
are
class.
done.
If you are done with the class, are we done with the class?
Yep. That's
I
basically
just want
all
to
for
confirm if
deployment.
we are done
Except
with the
that
class.
yes, yes, we are. Except that let's say in when we start to build project, okay. I believe that are you there?
I'm still
Are you
with you.
there?
I'm still with you.
All right. So once we
I'm here.
start
I'm
to
here. I'm
build
here.
project,
Can you hear me?
all right.
I can.
Once we start once we start to build project from let's say from Tuesday, which we require us to actually make use of database, not light again, not database, not SQLite. We also make use of a free database from Render as well. So which is quite easy as well to actually get. So you just come hit back to where you have new, click on new, and then you will see PostgreSQL. There it is. And all you have to do is to just put some random name there. Probably code cam group 1 DB. That could be our database name, right? CodeCamp group 1 database, and the rest will be auto-generated. Everything will just be exactly the way it is, and we want a free one. So this free one, you could see it says it's spanned for what? It's spanned for only 30 days. So which should be enough for our practice, right? So when that will give us what an actual Postgres database, and then once we generate, and then you have to click on what create database, and it will take a couple of minutes to generate an actual Postgres database for us. So once that has finished generating, it will come in it will come with a lot of information like the database name, the password, the user, and other stuffs. But then what we basically want is the database URL. Now remember, we are always interested in what in database URL, and every database has their own unique URL. So on this one actually finish creating, we should also do what get the URL for this particular database. So you simply copy that URL and go and replace where we have the SQLite what database, and we are good to go. So that once we deploy, we simply know that everything that's been done will live and breathe in render without us necessarily thinking about if files will get lost or not get lost. And then for file storage, we will still use quinary. So I think that's finished generating the database. So we now have the host name, right? We have the port, we have the database name, the database username, the password. Now the URL is basically the combination of all those informations there, right? That's basically what URL are always, right? They're basically the combination of what of the host name, database, the username and password. So if I copy this and just put it somewhere, then you can actually see that it will be similar to what we have, similar to SQLite. So I'll put it down somewhere down here. You can see, but this one will be quite longer compared to what we have in SQLite. But because this one is more secure, remember this one is more secure. So you can see that what is similar. The database name alongside with what with the database engine, right? Alongside with the database username. This should be the password, and this is likely going to be the host name and the server, and then the database name. So that's basically always the comprehension or what makes up a database URL. So basically we just carry this and one and replace with what we have as DB URL back then in our project. So that's basically how you can also get SQL database on render for free for 3 months, which is what we will use, on Tuesday to build a mini project. Right. So, question.
All right. So now, first one. Now let's
Right.
say I have deployed my application.
Okay.
So now I want to make maybe an editor and update. So how do I
Okay.
do that? Will it be
Right. So
that
you
I have
simply
to
just go.
delete it from render and
No.
do it again? Okay.
No. You simply just go to your application. You simply just go to your file as it is, right, and make the update. And push it back to render and push it back to your repository, and render will, because the thing is that once render asks you to install asks you for the installation, right, it also monitors your repository. So the moment it sees changes in that repository, it will automatically redeploy. So let me put one let's add one more route. So let's assume that at some point we want to add a new route. Let's say to let's say we want to add a route to users, right? So basically what we can do is let's add to item. Let's copy one user on here. Add to item. So we have get all item and get an item, right? So probably let's edit this get an item to look like this, right? Let's edit get an item to be something like this. Items, maybe should be items, and this should be get item, right? And they say it should be item with item data with ID that okay, and this should be get item. Probably that's the changes that we've done in our project, right? Now I want to push these changes back to what to render. Basically, what you can just do is just repeat, just to push back this file back to what to GitHub and we are done. So you just simply say git add, git commit. So you can say that I'm not initializing again, right? Because I know that this is already what a GitHub there's a GitHub initiation here already. So there's no point of doing git init again, right? So you simply add and then you commit and then you push. That's all. Those three commands. So you add and then you commit. So this time will be probably this will be my second commit. Second commit, second commit, and then git push origin. Right. All right. So that has pushed, and if we now go back to our GitHub and then we refresh, we should now see that new changes has come in. New changes should come in. Like, and you can see that new changes are coming about now, right? And if you now go to our render, you see that what our projects will automatically be deploying, right? So you can see that changes now will now be deployed towards to Lifesaver. So that's how you can push back your changes. So you don't need to delete it off render and push back again. Just push changes to your GitHub, and render will handle the rest. So this automatic deployment is by default. You can actually off it. So you can actually off automatic deployment and do it manually if you want to, right? You can actually turn that off. All right. Any other question?
Okay, thank you. I
All right.
get now. The second
Okay.
one is I think regarding the tax you are giving, this recent tax you are giving, tax 7.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we are asked to test and do unit testing and then to
Mm.
end. So I was like end to end and integration. You said we have 3 types of integration, but I think the only one we did was just unit testing. So I don't know, are they the same or what's the difference between the end to end and or is it just grammar? Because
So
I
you
saw
say the
end to
same.
end, so I don't know because I just want to know is it the same thing?
There shouldn't be
And
end to end there
follow up
because we
as
never did end to end. If end to end is there, then
uh,
sorry, uh, skip end to end. Just go ahead and do units because we never did end to end. So
but integration
don't
is
bother
there
writing
as
it
well.
end to end, please.
The the
Integration
integration, okay.
integration is more like is more like it's similar to unit testing. So integration is more like when you merge something into, let's say, let's assume that your route handler, right, is calling a function from somewhere. Now that process is more like you are integrating that function into your route handler. Now, if you are testing that particular route, you're not just doing unit, you're doing more like of integration testing because that route handler will have to call that function. So you test both the route handler and that function that you're calling from that route handler. Right. So integration is quite
Okay.
closer. It's similar to unit unit testing. It's quite similar, right? So what you want to do is just merge a function into your route handler and then test the route handler, and save as introduction. Leave the end to
Okay,
end.
I'll try to read more about it. Okay,
Sorry?
so now, okay, I said I guess now. So now,
Uh,
we did one of the tasks we are given is that we have to do authentication. We have to authenticate the user, the e-commerce tax. So now, how do we now validate? How do we test for the validation? I don't know how to put it because now that if I want to validate certain endpoint, the endpoint
okay.
depends on what's to the bearer stuff. So how
Yes.
do I
All right. So
test
now,
that kind of
okay.
endpoint using?
Okay. All right. So now, we both know that if you're using O2 auth, right, that it expects that the token should start with bearer. So basically, what you want to test for is that that token is starting with bearer, right? So you're not really interested in that token itself because that token is always going to be dynamic. But what you want to check is that that token starts with bearer. And so that is more like the most important thing, right? That it starts with bearer. So that's basically what
Okay,
you would want to test for. Okay.
okay,
Not
if I
not the
should choose
actual
the
not the
uh,
actual token.
okay, if I should choose the endpoint, let's say I have the
Okay.
endpoint. So the
Yeah.
endpoint now, the endpoint is okay. I want to make an order, but for me
Okay.
to make an order, I have to log in first. So
Okay.
how do I now test other endpoints? That's what I'm saying.
The other endpoint.
Because
First
for
of all,
me to make an
first,
order, I have okay, okay, go ahead, sorry. Hello, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Is it my network? I don't understand.
okay. So oh yeah. So first, so I'm sorry. I think my network actually kicked me out. All
Okay.
right. So I was saying that basically what you want to check for, okay, is if first of all, if you're checking for an order, what does an order endpoint do? It basically
So the
checks for the product that the user wants to do or add to their cart, right? Or want to actually order, right?
yes,
So basically, yes, you want to check now this
the-
request that is coming in. Is there a question?
I said go ahead, I can hear you.
Are you there?
I'm still with you, I'm still with you,
Okay,
I can
okay.
hear
So now,
you.
the other endpoint is basically an endpoint where a user can actually submit their goods, all right? For what? Probably to proceed to payments, right? So basically, what you want to check for just that kind of endpoint is possibly if they are authenticated. So that means you want to test if they have authorization as their header. Two, probably you want to check if they have let's say certain amount of goods that worth certain amount of money. Let's assume that in your own application, you cannot order anything less than 50, let's say 500 naira or let's say $10, right? So basically, you want to check and make sure that whatever that they are submitting for to move to, let's say, to confirmation that the goods there, the amount is up to a certain amount, right? Or probably you want to test that the goods that are actually coming in are actually exist in the database. There are a lot of things you can actually test there, right? So test is more like a based, right? Not a general based. What you may test for in other endpoints, Ada may test something else for that same endpoint. I've forgotten the other person's name. Some other person can also do a test for something else, but for the same endpoint. So it's all dependent on you, right? It's all dependent on you. If probably for you, probably you want to check for only as far as you're authenticated, you are good to go order anything, right? That could be your own point, right? Someone else may be okay, fine. My own is that I want to test and make sure that whatever you're ordering, right, the sum of it should not be less than so and so amount. So it's all dependent on the programmer, right? So testing is not a general so I say a general thing to like how do I put it? A general manual for all developers and be like, okay, if you are testing for let's say an other endpoint, you must test for this. No, right? So it's all dependent on you. It's all dependent on what you're actually watching out for, right? So that's basically that.
Yes, thank you. I guess I'll try to. Okay. Okay. You said okay. Okay. I already asked this one. Okay. I also want to ask this one. Um. So, can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Can you hear me now? Oh, shit. Well, there's a man around. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Network must have kicked me out again.
Okay. I also want to ask this question because during when we were writing our proposal, so I think
Okay.
you made mention of maybe something like tracking and payment services. So like maybe they are making payments when you want to purchase maybe something. So we want to kind of like want the purchase to
Track it.
be within the
Tracked.
app. So not that they will meet themselves outside, something like that. So now, what I'm now saying is that job the job of the back end person or the job of the front end?
To track goods that's being purchased.
Tracking, no, that is, they want to make payments. So like
Okay, the
the
payment
payment
channel.
channel. Yes.
Okay.
Just like what is this? What is this thing called?
Paystack.
I've forgotten what this one is.
Paystack.
Um,
Flutterwave.
I don't even know. Something like that. Yes, Flutter with like so it should be inside our app or something like that. I'm not saying that is it the job of the backend person or is the job of another person?
It can still be your job. It can still be your job. So basically, what you want to do is your API can still consume Paystack API and still do the work, right?
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
your API can still consume
okay,
API, can still consume external API and still validate the payments. Which is, I think we should also find a way and cover that payments in our projects more. In our own mini projects, we
okay,
just add more payments functionality.
okay, okay. So what about tracking as well? Maybe I want to track a product.
By and when you say track a product, it depends. Like, are you tracking when they want to buy it? Are you tracking when it's in their wallet? Like, sorry, in their cart? Like
like
how? Like,
like like now just like if I should make purchase in maybe AliExpress, so I'll be
okay,
seeing it. Okay, is at this location. The ship is still moving 2 days to something
okay.
like that. There will be a map like okay, the route of the kind of like okay, this is where the person is going. This is where the person is at. Something like
That
that.
sounds like back end. That sounds like back
It's
end.
also okay.
It sounds
I
like
just
back.
want to
It
know
sounds
so
like
that
back end. Probably yeah. It sounds like back end. Probably what the front end would be doing with that, maybe we will be giving and the front end so a specific route that they could be hitting that route every 1 minute to get update on the current location
Oh,
of the
yes, yes,
of that
yes,
product.
yes, yes.
Then the back end will simply
Okay,
be supplying the update
okay, okay,
value,
okay,
right?
okay, I get, I get.
Then the front end guys now will now make it dynamic. I feel the thing is moving, but basically what we are doing is making a get request
How
to
do
a
you do
particular
transfer?
and
Okay,
just be
no.
moving the whole front end stuff there. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I understand it. I understand the concept.
Yeah.
Understand the
So
concept.
that's how it will be though. That's how it
Well,
will be.
okay, that's all my question for now. Maybe in our next class I would have prepared other questions as well.
No problem. No problem. No problem.
Okay.
All right. Please do have a wonderful night rest and we get to work we get to join minds together and build a wonderful mini project
Okay.
in the
Is it
upcoming.
this Tuesday or you
Yes,
are
this
not meeting
Tuesday.
this Tuesday?
Yeah,
Okay,
we are
okay,
meeting
no
this Tuesday.
problem.
Yeah, from Tuesday, this, we are starting our own project. So what I will do now is I'll go and come up with a project that should encompass payment and all this stuff and in preparation for for the project phase.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, please do have a wonderful night rest. Bye for now.
Okay, I need to good night.